If you're a hip-hop or anime geek like me, I'm sure you came across the name Nujabes. Known as the Godfather of Lo-Fi hip-hop, who helped trigger the Lo-Fi movement worldwide with his jazz and soul-infused hip-hop tracks. With his birthday and the time of his death recently passing, I wanted to make a tribute video about Nujabes, going over his career and accomplishments. Last year, I started listening to him heavily, so much so that he was my top artist. It's just something about his music that's so infectious. I don't think I'll ever get tired of listening to him, if I'm being honest. I start my day with Nujabes and I end it with Nujabes. It's like, once you're hooked, you just can't get enough of the guy. But grab a snack, get comfortable, and dive deep with me on why you'll never forget Nujabes. Before Jun Seiba became Nujabes, he was Jun Yamada, born February 7th, 1974. At the age of 20, back in 94, he would go to Free Soul Underground where he will meet Toru Hashimoto, the person hosting the club event. When Toru Hashimoto would DJ, Nujabes would ask him, "What's this song?" which shows his love and fascination for music off the bat. At first though, he wanted to be a writer. He was also going to school as a design student at the time. When Hashimoto was in the process of putting Jun Yamada's name in the credits for a book or a magazine they were working on, Jun told him that from now on, he goes by Jun Seiba. Around the time Jun graduated, he opened his own record shop called Guinness Records in Ugarawa-cho, Shibuya. And at the time, Shibuya was booming with record shops, having the highest concentration in the world. Each record store in Japan had its own style, and Jun's record shop was known as the underground hip-hop joint. His record shop centered around records you could sample such as jazz and soul, 60% underground hip-hop and 40% other. While still focused on his record shop, Jun was beginning to enter the world of production in '98, cooking up his own beats under the name Nujabes, which is Jun Seiba spelled backwards. He ended up creating his own remix of Nas's One Love off the album Illmatic. He pressed it on the vinyl and would place the record on the Nas bin as a way to get his name out there and stir up people's curiosity, wondering who is Nujabes, not knowing that he was the owner of the record shop. Page Rock goes to say that it was a crazy hustle and how he learned from him. Around the same time, Nujabes would go to release a 36-track mixtape known as Sweet Sticky Thing. It's the first full-length project under the name Nujabes. Due to his rarity, the cassette is considered a grail among hip-hop cassettes collectors, but lucky for us, we can find it on YouTube these days. He also started his own record label called Hideout Productions. In the beginning, he kept the fact his record label was a Japanese-owned label, so it led many people to believe he was a foreign producer, especially with the name Nujabes.
Verbally use circle 360, repeat history. You list to see Mr. Do clear MCs out on list to read.
Throughout his career, Nujabes worked with many artists from America and Japan. One of the artists Nujabes collaborated with in his early years was L Universe, also known as Verbal, who was a huge pop star at the time. The song they worked together on was called Ain't No Mystery. Unfortunately, it's not on Spotify, at least I couldn't find it, but luckily it's on YouTube. It's a chill, laid-back sound you can easily vibe to. But side note though, while doing research for this video, I came across something very interesting. See, I looked up L Universe and learned he was a part of this hip-hop group called Teriyaki Boys. Now listen, I'm no crazy fan. I don't know too much of their discography. However, they had a hand making music for my favorite movie, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. And obviously one of the songs that I'm talking about is Tokyo Drift by Teriyaki Boys, which is a certified banger. No cap. They were cooking in the studio for real with that one, not gonna lie. But it's just crazy to me because I was 5 years old listening to someone who collaborated with Nujabes, and at the time I didn't even know that because I was too young to know anything except for cartoons, video games, WWE, and toys. It low-key felt like it was my destiny a little bit to discover Nujabes and make this video or something, but back to the program.
Teach one, reach American business and that is in the fall. East so we just begun to spread the gospel. Substantial place rock hip-hop apostles.
Substantial is one of the American artists that Nujabes had a chance to work with and befriend. They met through Substantial's friend who was doing a gig at Jun's store at the time, way back when no one knew who Nujabes was. Nujabes asked him if there were any rappers in New York worth checking out, and this was the very moment Nujabes was put onto Substantial. He ended up giving Substantial a call, but at first, Substantial thought it was one of his homies prank calling him because of Nujabes' thick accent on the other end of the phone. Substantial ended up taking the phone call seriously though, and it was only up from there. He ended up sending Nujabes more material, and Nujabes returned the favor by sending him more beats. Next thing you know, Substantial ended up signing a contract with Nujabes. Nujabes ended up flying Substantial to Japan for a month, which was their first face-to-face encounter with each other. The duo will go on to work on Substantial's album To This Union A Son Was Born, serving as the first stepping stone for their tight relationship, making music together for years to come. A feel like one of the most notable and iconic duo was Nujabes and Shingo2, coming together to cook up a 6-part series called Lovesick. In 2000, Nujabes reached out to Shingo2 through email, hoping to collaborate during the golden age of independent 12 inches. The two had planned up to meet in Tokyo. Nujabes gave him a tape of instrumentals. One of the tracks reminded Shingo2 of Common's 1994 hip-hop classic about the death of positivity in hip-hop culture, I Used to Love Her, which went on to spark the inspiration for the collaboration on Lovesick, Shingo2's very own love letter to hip-hop. Around the time 9/11 took place, Shingo2 was living in Japan working on his album 400. He tried to go back to California but ended up losing his ticket due to the tragic event. In the meantime though, Nujabes had sent him a beat asking for another collab, leading to the birth of Lovesick Part 2, about how the world was changing due to the events of the World Trade Center attacks. Third installment, Lovesick Part 3, was the last one Shingo2 worked on with Nujabes while he was still alive. The song appeared on Nujabes' second album, Model Soul, and it was a protest against hip-hop's rising commercialization. Despite Nujabes passing on, Shingo2 would continue on for the next 3 installments for Lovesick. Parts 4 and 5 consist of music him and Nujabes had discussed. For the last installment, Grand Finale, the beat was found on Nujabes' cell phone by his manager. By listening to the lyrics on Grand Finale, you can just feel Shingo's emotion that was poured over the song from Nujabes, man. Especially when he said, "As our records will stay on rotate." Despite Nujabes being gone from this world, he knows he would continue to live on through the music they worked on together. I feel like Grand Finale was just a perfect way to end the Lovesick hexology. The beat and lyrics are just beautifully put together. It's one of my favorite works, honestly. Now, I know I didn't go over every artist Nujabes worked with, because if I did, this video would end up being so long, and there's still other stuff I gotta talk about before putting a bow on this video. Like, I can't end this video without talking about Metaphorical Music and Model Soul.
Each one, teach one, reach a Maryland, Cincinnati to the far east. So
2003's Metaphorical Music was Nujabes' first solo album. It was released sometime after Hype Productions' first collection. He collaborated with artists such as Pays Rock, 5D, Substantial, Psystar, and Uyama Hiroto. He also sampled strictly from vinyl from artists such as Pharoah Sanders, Miles Davis, and Yusef Lateef. Metaphorical Music was a way for Nujabes to use music as a metaphor, expressing himself through his sound, using the things he thinks about in his everyday life, and the things he feels, which is why it was important for him to work with other artists that shared the same perspective of him, and express things that he also found important. And to maintain his message, he would bring artists over to his private studio despite the cost, so he can be hands-on with the recording process, providing them with directions to ensure that the music he was making aligned with his ideal sound, which was the most important thing to him. Honestly, when it comes down to albums, I feel like I'm not the best with listening all the way through. Sometimes I just pick a few songs that I like and go on about my day, but with Metaphorical Music, it was different for me. I feel like this album really has no skips. Each song on this album is truly a vibe for real. It starts out with an upbeat banger, Blessing It remix with Substantial and Pays Rock. The piano keys on that record are definitely one of my favorites. Sometimes while I'm at work, I catch myself humming the tune of the keys. I also really enjoy Substantial and Pays Rock on there. I feel like they mesh well together. One of my favorite lines on there is when Substantial states, "Disrespect hip-hop and I spit in your face." As someone that grew up with hip-hop and has a massive love for it, those words was definitely something I could relate to for real. Can't stand when people disrespect something they don't know about or don't understand. But I'm nerding out a little bit here. Another notable song on there is Lady Brown with Psystar on the mic, using a sample from The Shade of a Mango Tree by Louise Bonfa. Psystar flow and the instrumentals being used blend beautifully together in my opinion. I feel like when Nujabes makes a beat, he already has it in his mind who will pair well with it. It's just a great love song to vibe to for real, and maybe daydream about a girl you like. I could go on and on, but I just wanted to shine light on some of my favorite songs on Metaphorical Music. I know I didn't go over every song. It would turn into a long yap fest if I did, especially when I have to talk about Nujabes' second studio album, 2005, Model Soul.
light as a feather as I'm floating through, reading through the daily news, measuring the hurt within the golden rule.
Around this time, Nujabes started learning how to play instruments himself to incorporate into his tracks. This led to Model Soul being a shift in Nujabes' music. Collabing with Fat John and Uyama Hiroto pushed Nujabes into becoming more musical with his sound and going into a different direction. Fat John was the reason why Nujabes started playing the flute. He saw Fat John playing and decided that he had to learn himself now. When it came down to samples for this album, Nujabes dug deep into crates searching for more obscure and unique sounds to use. He used samples from Noriko Kose, I Miss You for Reflection Eternal, Gypsy Queen Part 2 by the rock band Gypsy for Thank You featuring Apani B Fly, which is an underrated banger in my opinion, and one of the samples that took years for hip hop heads to pinpoint was 10's Calmaria by Brazilian artist Nana Cami for Lovesick Part 3 featuring Shingo 2. Model Soul starts out strong with one of Nujabes' popular song Feathers. The song starts off with keys sampled from Yusef Lateef and then the drums sampled from Power of Zeus, putting the two together creating a chill and laid back atmosphere. Honestly, this whole album is like floating on the cloud and being hugged by a warm and soothing blanket. Each song offers so many sounds to just get lost to while vibing out, driving home after a long day of work, or maybe getting some tasks done. Some of my favorite songs that offer that are Model Soul featuring Uyama Hiroto, Sea of Cloud, Horizon, and Light on the Land. And what I find interesting about that track is that Nujabes used crickets, and it really just adds to the overall feel for real. By now I'm sure whoever is watching this is thinking, I missed some. How could I skip over Samurai Champloo? But don't worry, don't fear, the next segment is Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Champloo. 1, 2, 3.
Vagrant Morgan. Vagrant and Ronin Jin.
Are you ready to grovel at my feet and beg for forgiveness?
I'd rather die on my feet with my head held high.
I agree with him.
Okay, it's your turn now, pal.
All right.
Burn it to the ground! Aren't you going to run? Nah, I can't imagine a more perfect setting.
Samurai Champloo.
The year is 2004, a year before Model Soul came out, and Samurai Champloo aired on TV in Japan, an anime that combined hip-hop and Japan's Edo period, and follows the journey of Mugen, Jin, and Fu, who were in search of the samurai who smells of sunflowers. Created by Shinichiro Watanabe, his previous work Cowboy Bebop was a massive hit, that he was giving the freedom to do what he wanted, music included. He asked for Suchi to join in, and due to the rise and popularity of jazzy hip-hop, he felt that Nujabes, Fat John, and Force of Nature was also a perfect mix. Watanabe wanted the music and Samurai Champloo to stand out. He wanted the music and visuals to compete for a 50-50 ratio. He felt like Nujabes had the ability to give the music that kind of power and quality. Nujabes accepted the offer. He produced the opening theme, Battle Cry, featuring Shingo 2, and the ending theme, Shiki no Uta, featuring Minmi. There is this one song with Minmi 2 called Whose Theme. I think it was used from one episode, but damn, that song is mad good. The background vocals are my favorite, just too damn silky, man. Samurai Champloo didn't do too well though when it premiered in Japan, due to Watanabe combining hip-hop, which was mostly listened to by delinquent youth, and anime, which was mostly watched by otakus. However though, a year later, Adult Swim would start playing Samurai Champloo on Toonami, introducing Nujabes to more people across the world and increasing the anime popularity. Samurai Champloo has come to be known as the anime that helped trigger the Lo-Fi movement, influencing other artists and producers. It wouldn't be right of me if I didn't give a quick head nod to Jay Dilla, who also helped shape lo-fi to what it is today. He was born on the same day and year as Nujabes, February 7, 1974. Only difference is he was born on the other side of the world, residing in Detroit, Michigan. His unique style and work ethic would go on to influence other artists such as Kanye West, Erykah Badu, Tribe Called Quest, and Common. He was known to use samples that incorporated jazz, funk, and anything soulful. When it came down to producing his beats, he refused to use quantization, which matches all the sounds to a grid's tempo and time signature. He would instead switch time signature throughout the songs he would produce, which resulted in his music sounding more authentic. Some would go to say that he humanized the beat machine he would use, the Akai MPC 3000. In 2006, his career and time on Earth would be cut short due to health complications with lupus, but that didn't stop him from making music that he loved. He would begin to work on his 5th album Donuts, consisting of 31 songs to represent the 31 years he lived. Donuts was mostly an instrumental album, only consisting of vocals from the samples that were being used. He was able to put out Donuts 3 days before his death. I have haven't listened to the whole album yet, but one of my favorite songs on there is Don't Cry, using a sample from I Can't Stand to See You Cry by the Escorts. conveys the message that he doesn't want his fans or mom to cry over him, but instead celebrate his music and the contributions he made to hip-hop. Before Nujabes would go on a hiatus from music, he would release Hyde Production's second collection, which had the track Counting Stars, one of the very first upload of a Nujabes track during the peak of Samurai Champloo popularity. When it came down to this project, it left the listeners wondering if it's supposed to invoke sadness and guilt or happiness and confidence, but it was still a good project overall. One of my favorite tracks on there is Akari featuring Substantial and Imaginary Folklore. Sadly though, Hyde Production's second collection ended up being the last album from Nujabes. February 26, 2010 would be a devastating day, shaking the hip-hop world with the passing of Nujabes from a car accident, the same month and 4 years after J Dilla. Despite Nujabes no longer being on this earth, his music continues to live on, staying on rotate, especially thanks to his friends for keeping his legacy alive and preserving his music. Shingo too will go to work with other artists Nujabes collaborated with to continue to finish a half-finished project Nujabes was working on. That project would go on to be 2011 Spiritual State. Working on the project was difficult due to not knowing the correct sounds to use in Nujabes' intentions, but despite the setbacks, everyone was still able to band together and complete Nujabes' legacy. It always bums me out when I discover an artist who had already passed, mostly because I didn't get to experience them being alive, but that's okay honestly. I get to experience Nujabes' legacy and be a part of keeping his music alive every day when I press play on Spotify. He wanted hip-hop to be played as background music. He may not be able to see it, but he accomplished what he was aiming for. Sometimes I find myself playing Nujabes while working on videos, completing tasks, and just driving home from work. I'm no producer, but he inspired me to do what I enjoy with nothing but pure love, you know? And maybe definitely expand my music taste, cause man, Nujabes had a good pair of ears on him, especially when selecting tracks that'll match the vibes he was going for. In my eyes, he was a true master of his craft. I'll forever appreciate Shinichiro Watanabe and Samurai Champloo for putting me on to Nujabes and many other artists I met through him. But I hope whoever's seen this enjoyed this video on why you never forget Nujabes. Rest in peace Nujabes, and rest in peace J Dilla. I'll catch y'all at the next station.